Hey, what's going on? It's Andy Blanks with YM360 here with another teacher prep video for our Amplify Bible study curriculum. Now, this teacher prep video is for the first lesson in a 3-lesson series on God's sovereignty. And this is an absolute foundational series and understanding for your students as they seek to really shape their faith and build their faith. God's sovereignty is something that even those of us who understand the concept, if we step back for a moment and really think about it, it's one of those things that we really sort of push back against as people, as humans, as people who have a sin nature. We really don't like to think about God as our sovereign ruler, except when we really want to question it, right? Except when something goes bad and we're like, hey, why'd you let this happen? And so understanding God's sovereignty is huge when it comes to helping students build that faith that's going to last and stay with them as they grow and mature. So what we're going to accomplish in this first lesson, is really just laying the foundation for what God's sovereignty is. And we're going to establish really that God is the Almighty King who is has authority over all things and really orders all things, right? That there's nothing too big for him or too hard for him, and he is in control of all things. We're going to do this by really starting out of the gate establishing God as creator. Now, we could have gone to Genesis. When we think about Amplify, there's a few places where we kind of go to the passage in Genesis 1, kind of looking at God as creator or some aspect of it. So we wanted to do a little something different. We went to that wonderful passage in Job where God and Job are having this interaction at the end of Job, when Job's already sort of been through his trials and he's gotten this bad advice for his friends, and he kind of begins to question God a little bit, and God really kind of steps up and really puts Job in his place in a way that only God can. And part of that is God talking to Job about how he has created all things, and he kind of puts Job, if you recall that passage, he puts Job in perspective. He's like, where were you when I did all of these things? And he talks about laying out the measure of the world and all those wonderful things, this really creative, artistic language that's used there. So we want to establish God as creator king. In Psalms 115, it says, nothing is too hard for God. He created everything. And so God as creator is important because his sovereignty is tied to that. This is his world. He's ordered the world. We're living in his world as his creation. Sometimes it's tough for teenagers to kind of see that. And if we're honest, as adults, it's hard for us as well. The next point we want to basically go into is that God is in charge of all things, that God is in control of all things. We're going to use this, some passages in Proverbs, to just show the idea that God orders our footsteps. There is no such thing as coincidence. God's hand of sovereignty, he rules over all events and all occurrences. And Proverbs, again, talks about this idea of there are no coincidences. God orders our steps. We have free will, obviously, but God knows where we're headed. God knows where the paths we're going to take. He's seen it all. He's above time. He's outside of time. He's seen the entirety of our journeys. He knows how it's going to end and how it's going to go, right? But then we're going to build on top of that and come back at the very end and just point out that, yes, God is the creator king. He orders all of our steps, right? We're sort of under his rule and his reign. But the great thing about it is that God is a good king. God is a good ruler, and that's essentially what a sovereign is a ruler. The word reign is in sovereign, right? It's someone who rules, and we're talking about how God rules, how God reigns, and God is a good ruler. He's essentially good. We're going to look at passages from the Psalms that reaffirm this, that we can trust God and we can love God and we can serve God because of who he is. So these are the foundational truths you're going to kind of help your students grasp in this session. It's a really good lesson that's going to give us a nice starting point to cover the next lesson in this series, 21, where we look at Jesus in relation to God's sovereignty, and then finally how God's sovereignty really impacts our lives or the lives of your students living out their faith. So I hope this is going to be a great series for you. If we can answer any questions or help you in any way, please don't hesitate to let us know. I hope your lesson goes great, and I look forward to seeing you on another teacher prep video.